property from the state of Tennessee located at 88 Hermitage Avenue. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Bill is recommended. Now we're on to resolutions. RS 2019-1685, sponsors Vercher and Gilmore, authorizes the Industrial Development Board to accept payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to Oliver McMillan Spectrum Emory, LLC. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilman Mendez.
So is the idea to defer this again to match up to get third reading with the other, the two ordinances?
Yes.
So move to defer one
Thank you.
meeting.
Thank you for that. I didn't write that on my agenda. Thank you for catching that, Councilman. There's a motion to defer so this can track with the other. Any discussion? Councilwoman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we voted on this entire process, which was remarkably complex, a number of years ago. Can someone just explain why we're voting on this piece now and that it wasn't part of the original agreement when we authorized the whole demolition of the old convention center and this new project?
Attorney Cooper?
So this is a complex legal structure by necessity, and it's so the museum can receive the bond proceeds that were already authorized some 10 plus years ago. So it's just a legal mechanism for them to be able to use those bond funds for the museum.
That answer your question, Councilwoman Allen? Councilman Mendez.
I guess while we're talking about this a little bit, even though it's going to be deferred, I just want to mention, so I've been working through Mr. Jameson with Metro Legal, and I think there are some amendments, I lose track of, to whether it's the ordinances or the resolution that will be coming next time around. And there are still two that I just want to mention that are unresolved while I've got Metro Legal here. One is, I think the way I read all the documents you guys have been kind enough to send over is that the IDB under the legal documents owes assessments, and there is they owe assessments, and there should be somewhere in some document saying that IDB does not have to pay condominium assessments, and that needs to be fixed. And the other one is section 12.01 of this document on this resolution is, I still don't understand what it's supposed to accomplish. And I know there's still ongoing back and forth, so we don't necessarily have to have answers now, but those two issues, the explanation I've gotten about 12.01 in the pilot lease is not satisfactory to me yet, and I definitely, the legal documents absolutely say that IDB owes condo assessments, and somehow that needs to get changed. Again, thanks for the ongoing conversation, and just noting that there'll be some changes coming, I think.
I'll have Margaret comment also, Councilman Mendez.
With regard to the condo documents and the assessment, this is a triple net lease, and we're of the opinion that it's already contemplated in there, but I've spoken with the attorneys for OMSC, and we have agreed to make that amendment at your request. With regard to 12.01, in my latest response to you, I stated that there's another provision in the lease that expressly states that the sublease will be executed at the same time.
If we want to debate these things. So on the first one, I appreciate it. The pilot agreement is not a triple net lease. It's a lease for $1. And so there is no passing of the assessments from IDB to Oliver McMillan. And so the way the documents read is that the museum has to pay the assessments under the sublease that Metro owes, but IDB is never relieved of the assessments that it has by nature of owning a condominium interest. And so I appreciate you guys fixing that. And then that 12.01, you refer to the third recital, which defines a capital S subtenant as Metro. And so everybody knows how to say Metro in the agreement. And instead of using the word Metro, it says any third party that provides services or products used in connection with lessee's business operations. And so there's some reason that the capital S subtenant's not used, and it doesn't sound like Metro or the museum would be providing services or products used in connection with the lessee's business operations. And so if that means Metro there, it should be easy enough to take out that language and say to subtenant, capital S. You guys ought to be able to do that. So again, thanks for working on this with me.
Thank you, Councilman Mendez. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Well, I appreciate this being deferred to next time, but while people are here, and it is a very complicated subject, I was hoping somebody could just give a summary of the end transaction, so to speak, of ownership, payment, term for the museum.
Yeah, Margaret?
I think that I can answer your question. So the way that this structure is set up, we have three, excuse me 1 minute. No, I didn't. There are three pieces of legislation here. The first one is a resolution, and it will authorize the Industrial Development Board to negotiate the pilot terms with Oliver McMillan. And it will essentially be a lease between the IDB and Oliver McMillan. This is subsequent to the Oliver McMillan giving or deeding over to the IDB the museum unit in their facility. Oliver McMillan will then have a sublease, which is the subject of another ordinance that is also part of this package. That sublease will be with the metropolitan government. And as Mr. Cooper said earlier, this is all for the purpose of facilitating the tax exemption for the bond proceeds that were authorized back in 2008. The third ordinance is the approval of the amended and restated development and operating agreement. This is an agreement that has already been in place between the IDB and the museum, and now Metropolitan Government will be a party to this agreement with the IDB and the museum. The term of the agreements is 20 years. The term of the pilot lease is 20 years. This is to necessitate the tax exemption on the bond proceeds as well, and that's the minimum amount. It's also the maximum amount under state law for a pilot agreement without getting state approval. And then the sublease will be for the same time period.
And Margaret, just for the viewing audience, just state your name and title, just for the viewing audience.
My name is Margaret Darby, and I'm an attorney with the Metro Legal Department.
Well, thank you. Just to follow up a little bit on this, I'm grateful for you taking us through all the complexity. At the end of the day, the museum has a lease?
No, at the end of the day, the museum is the operator of the museum space, the operator on behalf of the IDB and Metro.
So the museum does not have a lease. It has an operation agreement of space that Metro has a lease to.
Correct.
And how long does Metro have the lease for?
It is, the initial term is 20 years.
And can it be extended?
Yes.
So how long is the operating agreement between the museum and Metro?
I believe it is for the same time period. I would have to go back and look at that document.
So the museum is for, I mean, it's not a permanent thing. They don't own the space. They have a 20-year operating agreement on space that Metro has a 20-year lease on.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then what is the cost to Metro for the lease of this space?
Well, under the sublease, the metropolitan government is obligated to pay for the assessments for the condo declarations, and they're also obligated to pay for the CAM, the common area maintenance. Those costs are passed on to the museum.
Those costs, so the museum, at the end of the day, by holding the operating agreement, will have responsibility for the assessment and the CAM charges.
Correct.
And the CAM charges used to be, that could be quite a few dollars per foot. Is there an estimate of how much the museum will need to pay?
There is an estimate, and it is in the sublease, and I don't have that particular section. $3.77 a square foot.
Okay, so about $200,000. The museum starts having to, will have to give Metro through the operating agreement about $200,000 a year for the space that it has.
Yes.
Under that theory, so it starts. So, what are some of the other? Are there other features in the operating agreement with the museum that will cost the museum money? You hate for the museum to have to be paying Metro as, I guess, its sub-landlord, but it will be, won't it?
And the museum is obligated for all operating expenses for the museum space.
Okay. For, again, this 20-year period.
I'd say it's 20 years, but as long as they are there, they will be obligated to pay all of those operating expenses. Yes.
But how can it be, and under what process does the museum get to stay there longer? I mean, beyond the 20 years. So all the agreements here, the pilot and everything is geared to 20 years. Is there a trigger to allow them to stay 99 years or forever? I mean,
presumably, if all the parties agree to extend the term of the leases, then they will do that at that time.
Okay. And then, because we so want to support this, the two buckets of money that have been sort of headed to the museum, one is, as John was saying, many years ago started the $10 million appropriation, of which this is the culmination of that appropriation?
We have to do this structure because of that appropriation.
That's an appropriation. And that was $10 million some years ago, the journey of this money coming. How is the $10 million accounted for here? I mean, the council appropriated $10 million, I guess, in 07 to 09?
I thought it was 8.
Okay. So that appropriation of $10 million, how does that end up in where we are today?
Well, that is part of a grant agreement that was approved back in 2008 between Metro and the IDB, which is still in existence. So that agreement is not subject to reapproval at this time.
Right, but we appropriated $10 million to head off to the museum. How is it being received by the museum today? Where is the $10 million worth of value? Because the museum is going to have to pay a couple $100,000 a year, right? Oh, good.
Mr. Hicks, just identify yourself and title just for the viewing audience.
Good afternoon. My name is Henry Hicks. I'm the president and CEO of the National Museum of African American Music. Councilman Cooper, the $10 million has been accessed by the museum principally over the last 5 years to pay for the planning and design and now the construction, some of the construction of the museum. For example, right now we are under construction with the exhibitions, the exhibits that will go in the museum. And so the museum has drawn down cash from the city to reimburse the contractors for those expenses.
I appreciate that. Grateful for it because I want to make sure that you get the money.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying you have been getting the money.
We have been getting the money. Metro has been a great partner in cooperating with us to work through that process over the last several years.
Now, have you gotten any additional funds from the 5th and Broadway project? I mean, are you limited to just this one bucket of $10 million? Because at the time of the property sale, I think some of the thought was that you also would be advantaged by that.
Well, I would say we have not received funds directly. The developer has been, I would say, generous as it relates to the development and the design of the space. I think that some of the original language suggested that it would be 40 to 50,000 square feet. I think that we're going to get about 56,000 square feet. And there have been some design-related changes along the way that we have requested for the benefit of the museum and for the public, that the developer has been very cooperative with us in terms of making sure those things come to pass.
Okay, I'm appreciative, and I'm appreciative for you to be able to tell the public that for the money that was intended to come in your direction, that you all have been receiving it.
We have
through this, because it's a complicated set of agreements on this end, and so it's great to have the beneficiary feel like they've gotten that.
We do, and I would add, relative to the lease terms, it is an initial 20-year period with 5 10-year extensions that are contemplated in the lease. In addition to that, the common area maintenance fees that will be charged were roughly equivalent to the amount that we had budgeted for operating expenses for those expenses had we been operating the museum independently. Or said differently, I suspect that other tenants in the space will be paying common area maintenance charges much greater than the $3.67 that we'll start off with.
And Metro, the ownership of your interest, of your museum, is IDB owns it or Oliver McMillan owns it?
IDB will be the owner of the unit, the museum unit, and they will lease it to Oliver McMillan, who will then sublease it to Metro.
Okay, but the IDB fundamentally is the owner of the 55,000 feet.
Yes, for the purposes of this structure to maintain the tax exemption for the bond proceeds.
And the IDB will own it, in effect, forever as a condominium interest.
Not necessarily, if everything is unwound.
So Oliver McMillan is the ultimate owner, and the IDB has a long-term lease on this space?
The IDB will receive a deed to the space.
A deed as though it were the owner?
A conveyance of the museum unit, yes.
So the IDB does have a condominium interest?
Yes.
Okay, so and will own it forever? No.
As long as this structure is in place, they will own it.
Okay, okay, all right. No,
Councilman Cooper,
no, no one is talking out of school.
Yeah, I think,
Thank you. It's very complicated, and I appreciate just getting a leg up on next week's deferral on that, and just this basic question of who is the owner of the space ultimately, and how can the ownership of it benefit the museum?
Councilman Cooper, I'm going to go to your colleague here.
Please.
Councilman Mendez.
So IDB will own a condominium interest in the museum. However, the Oliver McMillan entity has certain rights to cause it to reobtain ownership. And there's a couple different triggers in the documents. One of the triggers is if you get to the end of the 20-year pilot, then the ownership interest gets unwound back to Oliver McMillan. As currently drafted, it says that any time Oliver McMillan can assert the right to come to own the property again. And if that happens, there's a bunch of complicated language that would install the museum as a lessee on basically the same terms that are under the sublease and operator agreement. So IDB will definitely not own it forever, and the uncertainty in the answer, the lack of clarity is because it's either going to be 20 years and then it gets unwound after the pilot, or sooner if Oliver McMillan wants to, that this might be one of the topics for an amendment in the next couple of weeks to at least leave it in place for the 20 years. But that, I don't know the answer beyond that.
Thank you, Councilman Mendez. Ms. Darby, can you provide some clarity on that, especially since it's been proposed that an amendment would be following? The language as it relates to the timing of ownership.
There's some language that was pointed out for amendment, and we've spoken with Oliver McMillan and have come to an agreement to make that amendment.
Thank you so much. Councilman Mendez, you were any more? Did you have anything further?
No, well, I guess just to follow up on that, so the language is going to be amended so it will last 20 years and then get unwound after the pilot agreement is expired? Is that when the ownership will unwind?
Yes.
Councilman Cooper, did you have anything further?
No, and I'm grateful to everybody. I appreciate this is enormously complicated, and people have done a lot of hard work on it. And all these questions end up, I think, we'll be revisiting in time, just to make sure that the museum's interests are fully protected, as is our responsibility.
And rightly so, due to that, the details of this was the heavy lift was done before this council body. Councilwoman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Vercher. My question is for NAM about the 2008 $10 million appropriation.
Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Sure, yes, ma'am.
You had indicated that $10 million had been accessed and used for planning, design, kind of like your interior build out now. How much of the $10 million remained?
About $3 million.
Do you feel that will be sufficient to execute all the interior build out?
We are completing our capital campaign, so we have been raising money in the private sector to complement and add on to the appropriation that the city provided in 2008. And so we've still got a little bit of money yet to raise. We're about 80 to 85% of the way complete. And then hopefully over the next several months, we'll wrap that up. And then, yes, at that point, it will be sufficient.
And then it's 85% towards a goal of?
48 million or so in total.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Henderson. Seeing no further discussion on the one meeting deferral, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is deferred. RS 2019-1696, sponsors Vercher and Van Rees, approves a grant from the Office of the Mayor to the Nashville State Community College Foundation to support the Nashville Grad Program. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilman Pulley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very briefly, if I could talk to somebody from the mayor's office, very quick question. I know you have a robust amount coming up, but this particular resolution only deals with $40,000, I believe, and that's a grant from the mayor's office coming out of your currently allocated budget. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's out of the FY19 budget.
I'm going to interject, Councilman Pulley, just for the viewing audience, state your name and your position.
Yep, my name is Ann Havard. I'm the mayor's senior advisor for economic opportunity. So this grant will just be $40,000 for the Nashville State Community College Foundation. It will help with the program startup costs for Nashville Grad, which is a new scholarship program at Nashville State and Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Nashville. The program will provide financial assistance as well as academic and career advising for students at TCAT Nashville and Nashville State.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that explanation. I have nothing further.
What would be the criteria for it? Is this a last dollar scholarship? Refresh my memory.
So the financial assistance will provide support for textbooks, transportation, technology fees, industry certification fees, any other emergency needs. So really thinking about the costs beyond tuition, since we have free community college through Tennessee Promise and Tennessee Reconnect through the state.
Is that regardless of need?
Some of those programs, right now, the eligibility criteria for Nashville grad is specifically looking at students that are full-time at Nashville State or full-time equivalent at TCAT Nashville, and have not previously earned an associate's degree or baccalaureate's degree. However, a large number of the students at Nashville State are facing a lot of those barriers to access and completion because of those costs beyond tuition.
So it's not going to be, they're not looking at the federal need when I'm saying the estimated financial contribution, the EFC?
There's not a need-based criteria on the eligibility right now, and that's just because as we've started projecting the cohort size for this year being a pilot year for the program, we don't think we're going to need to actually add that on there, but we can have additional conversations about that as we move forward.
So the students would self-identify?
Yes, Nashville State is working right now to provide the application process for their students that are already going to be enrolling in the fall, and then they will be finalizing that process over the next few weeks as we approach the budget.
Okay, I'll talk offline with you.
Great.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1697, sponsors Vircher and Gilmore, approves the Healthy Start Initiative, eliminating racial ethnic disparities grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to the Metro Board of Health to provide services in reducing infant mortality for pregnant and parenting women. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilwoman Gilmore.
Thank you so much. If Mr. Sharp could come and speak about it, and the staff that they have as well.
Madam Chairman, I'm Tom Sharp in the Health Department. This is a new grant. It is coming to us. There's an announcement tomorrow, I believe, from the mayor. It'll be for 5 years. It's about $1 million a year. It'll be applicable in the following zip codes. You ready? I'm going to leave out the 37. 115, 207, 208, 210, 216, 218, and 221. About half of it will be staffing at the health department, half of it will be medical and clinical services, and there is a fatherhood component as well.
Councilwoman Gilmore.
Thank you, Chairperson Vircher. So have you already identified the staff?
No. For the three elements, the evaluation is one, medical and clinical services is another, and the father engagement is the third. There will be RFPs put out for those. They're working on those now. And the staff has not been, this grant hasn't been approved yet, so we can't hire people yet. So they'll get on that.
Okay, I just wanted to be mindful that I had looked through this particular grant, and it said that it should be reflective of the people that it serves. Like that was a part of the criteria as well, that even in the staffing, that it needs to be reflective of that.
They're aware of that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
And will we have some follow-up in the end of how that looks?
There is an evaluation component is one of the aspects of that'll be one of the RFPs.
Okay, so maybe you can follow up. I guess the recommendation, Madam Chair, would be to follow up by the time that they do that, so it won't be a long lapse, just to make sure that we
He's making note of it.
keep in line with that. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Dow.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. Will this be administered through the health department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The reason I asked, I know in the past we had a grant very similar to this that dealt with infant mortality that some kind of way went through I think, juvenile court's office or something like that. I can't remember who. So I just want to check to see if it's going to be administered through the health department. And also with these grants, I know in the past we received grant dollars, and one of the challenges we've had is monitoring and making sure the program that we implement aligns to the requirements of the grant. Do you know if part of the RFP, once this is received, includes someone to manage the grant to make sure that we are not getting ourselves in a situation we did a few years ago where basically the program administrator was also managing the grant as well as the programs and all of that?
So there will be a grant manager. It will be under Deanna Allen Robb, I imagine.
I didn't hear that.
Deanna Allen Robb is her name. She'll be the oversight, basically. But for these, you'll have a grant manager at the funder level. This is, it's federal money, so there will be a program manager at the federal level.
Yes.
And there is an evaluation component that is a part of the requirement of the grant.
Yes, I understand at the federal level, but a few years ago, we had a program that, it was a fatherhood program and an infant mortality program, and the biggest challenge we had, we discontinued that program. If I recall, it was a 3-year grant that we matched to participate and receive money. We sent back the last 2 years and canceled the program, and one of the challenges with that was that we did not have a person at our local level to make sure that we were spending the dollars aligned to what the federal grant outlined. So we had someone at the federal level to oversee it in the state, but we didn't have anybody at the local level to look at how we were dispersing funds to make sure they aligned with the purpose and use of the grant. So there was some gray area on that. And so what I was just really wanting to get some information on, we can talk offline, is to make sure that when we go forward and taking this federal money, that we are, we have the staff and infrastructure in place to make sure that we are administering it properly, and that we don't get in a situation where we're receiving money, starting a program, and canceling it in the middle of it, because that's detrimental to the communities and the people who participate in it. So I look forward to talking a little bit more about the infrastructure we're going to put in place to support this program. I think it's a great idea and much needed in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Sharp?
I hear you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dow. I also made note of that. Mr. Sharp, you'll get a follow-up correspondence from me as well. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. We're on RS 2019-1698, sponsors Vircher and Gilmore, approves a grant from the SAFE Coalition to the Metro Board of Health to provide funding for Metro Animal Care and Control Safety Net Voucher Program. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we get Mr. Sharp back up to explain what this program does?
Mr. Sharp, you might as well just stand for the
Yes,
next.
ma'am.
Okay.
I'm still Tom Sharp from the Health Department, or at least I was a minute ago. The question is, what is the SAFE group, or what's the money for? The SAFE group is an animal welfare coalition, and they've raised, I think it's $5,000 that will be for, we get owners bring in animals because it's got a behavioral problem. For instance, it's wetting the rugs or whatever. It may be a relatively minor health problem. And we're not necessarily able to deal with those with our existing resources, and so this will help us help them with those issues.
Councilwoman Allen. You're good? Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1700, sponsors Vircher and Gilmore, approves a grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health to provide chronic disease prevention and management services associated with pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, or heart disease and stroke. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilwoman Gilmore.
If you could just come up and explain.
This is also new money. You will see an amendment to this actually within the next few months. They're going to raise that to $60,000 a year for each of 4 years. The idea, we will work with the libraries, with the Nashville General Hospital, Neighborhood Health, Matthew Walker, try to identify and educate and get people with prediabetes or untreated diabetes or untreated hypertension to get their condition dealt with so that they don't just let it go and it gets worse.
Councilwoman Gilmore.
And so are you doing outreach through those partners, or more specifically, how would you identify?
We will work with them. We'll do outreach with them and try to get folks into the clinics to get treatment as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1701, sponsors Virtue and Gilmore, approves an amendment to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health for Healthy Start Home Visiting Program to improve outcomes for eligible families who reside in at-risk communities. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilwoman Gilmore.
So this shows up on my paperwork as a, let's see, let me make sure we're on 1701, right?
1701,
Right.
an amendment to a
This is what we
grant.
know as Healthy Beginnings. It's a home visiting program for at-risk families. It's a referral system where if there's an issue with abuse or something like that, or just sort of generally not really getting parenthood, it's a evidence-based home visiting program, and they will, this particular one extends the grant for a couple of years. It changes the funding term, so it's actually for like 2.25 years. And they up the caseload to 70 families.
Councilwoman Gilmore.
Thank you. What do you find, what do they do if they recognize the abuse? Do they still try to
Well,
work with them?
if there's actual abuse, that will be a different issue. That would probably be a referral to DCS.
Okay.
But if there's a history of difficulties in a family, if they're referred to us by a physician, for instance, that these folks need some help, they will go try to help them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. I just had a question for Mr. Sharp. Can you define eligibility?
It's based on referral.
I understand that, but
they have a scoring system where they ask them various aspects of their home life and so forth, and they score them that way.
So it also says for at-risk communities. What if there's a family that's outside the bounds of what's considered an at-risk community?
I don't think that's a geographical boundary.
Okay. Can you get information from me about
Sure.
that, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Weiner. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1704, sponsors Virtue, Syracuse, and others, approves a grant from the Tennessee Arts Commission to the Metro Arts Commission for funding to nonprofit organizations to nurture artists, arts organizations, and support development of Davidson County's cultural resources. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Councilwoman Gilmore.
Thank you. If someone could come in and discuss it, please.
Do we have someone here from, I don't see you. Yeah, okay, we'll roll this to the Hill. Mr. Jameson is doing his duties. Give us a second. It's rolled, so we'll just go on to 1705. Well, on RS 2019-1705, sponsors Virtue and Syracuse, approves a grant from the Friends of Tennessee Rivers Mansion to the Metro Parks and Recreation Department to provide partial funding for one employee salary for administrative support at Two Rivers Mansion. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. If there isn't any objection, I would like to take RS 2019-1706 and 1707 together. Is there any objection? Seeing none, RS 2019-1706 sponsors Virtue, Syracuse, and Gilmore, approves a grant from the Friends of Two Rivers Mansion to the Metro Parks and Recreation Department to provide funding for 2 part-time employees to conduct historic tours at Two Rivers Mansion during June, July, and August 2019. RS 2019-1707, sponsors Virtue, Syracuse, and Gilmore, approves a grant from the Friends of Two Rivers Mansion to the Metro Parks and Recreation Department to provide funding for 2 part-time employees to conduct historic tours at Two Rivers Mansion during the 2019 Christmas season. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolutions are recommended. RS 2019-1708, sponsors Virtue, Syracuse, and Gilmore, appropriates $250,000 through a grant contract between the Nashville Public Library and Oasis Center Incorporated to provide college access services for the Nashville Scholars Program. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This sounds like a great program. Could we get someone to tell us a little bit more about the Nashville Scholars Program, please?
She's coming down.
Hi, I'm Angela McElrath-Prosser, Finance Manager for the Nashville Public Library. This is a program that's been going on for quite a while at the library. We inherited it at the same time we got the NASA program. And the College Connection part of it it's through the Oasis Center, and they have mentors that go to 10 different high schools and work one-on-one with the students to help them consider that college is an option, how to go about it, what classes do I take, what funding do I need to find, and all that kind of stuff. They have regular group workshops at 3 of the middle schools. They have periodic where they can drop in at Oasis Center and ask questions. The parents can come. So that's how that one works. The next resolution right behind it is a companion piece for this. It's the Mayor's Youth Council, and it is similar. There is a summit that they have to get the children and see what do they need, what are their thoughts. And so those two, this Oasis does them both, are kind of together, but that's what is that what you were kind of hoping for?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Allen. Councilwoman Gilmore.
Thank you. They both sound like pretty awesome programs. For the mentors that go to the schools for the $250,000 grant, who are those mentors?
They're from the Oasis Center. They're staff there.
Okay, so they're actually staff members.
Mm-hmm.
And do y'all keep data on how many students you work with and how many go on to college?
They have provided us with that. They have served last year 500 students through this program, and they've worked in the post-secondary retention. They've worked with 102 in the post-secondary college.
Okay, very good. And then for the Mayor's Youth Council, we know that that's really awesome. When do they have the openings for that?
They advertise for through all of the schools that we advertise on our Metro website. They do all the counselors at the schools. They send all the information out to the kids through that.
Okay,
So-
but I guess what I wanted to know, what time of year?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Well, it says they do it through the 12 months, so they're interviewing. Let me look at my paperwork just real quick. I thought I saw the time frame here, but I don't see the actual date of the summit, but I can get that information to you.
Okay, thank you. You had all the other information, so thank you so much. But if you could get that out, just so when we see students in the community, we can tell them.
Okay.
Because it's an honor to be a part of the Mayor's Youth Council. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1709, sponsors Virtue, Syracuse, Gilmore, appropriates $50,000 through a grant contract between the Nashville Public Library and Oasis Center to provide services that help youth grow, thrive, and create positive change in their lives and our community. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1710, sponsors Virtue Roberts O'Connell, approves a grant from the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation to Metro Government to help offset expenses incurred for emergency management for the 2019 National Football League Draft. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Has someone done a tally now that this is behind us and it was such a wild success on what the total cost were for emergency services? Not yet. Do you think we could get that?
Yeah, we don't have, we can try the information for you.
That'd be great to have. Thank you.
Mr. McGuire, will you make note of that? Do we have a time frame when we can expect to receive it? It's one thing to request it, but can we expect when we can receive it?
I'm not quite certain how long it'll take for them to get me the information, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll request it immediately and hope to get it to you as soon as I can.
Will it be before tomorrow?
I would suspect not.
Okay.
Can we shoot for before we get to this department in the budget? Or I guess to the convention, Music City Center,
In the budget hearings?
in the budget hearings?
Again, I will do my best.
Okay.
I can only ask the question.
Hopefully that will be easier than tomorrow, so if you can
Yeah.
do that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Allen. Councilwoman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Vercher. My question is similar to Council Lady Allen's. I think we've seen a few of these smaller amounts coming through, and I would just be interested to know also the combined amount. And then I wanted to ask as well, emergency management, what does that include?
You want to, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, Councilwoman, but basically I was thinking the same thing, itemization out by agency as it relates to the cost. If we can get that, Mr. McGuire.
And Council Lady
Because
Allen.
we had fire, police, OEM. I
Right.
mean, it was
Right,
all
it
of
was
our
a
agencies down there.
multi-department. So Council Lady Allen emailed me this question earlier this morning, and I told her just a little bit ago, and have sent an email to Maria on the council staff that we need to get that information from the individual departments. That is not coming directly to us. So I will help coordinate those efforts to get council members answers, but finance doesn't have that information. We have to solicit it from each individual department that was involved.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Henderson.
I appreciate that. And I think what I would suggest, since this has been an issue of general community concern and council concern, right, with police overtime, public works overtime, all the overtime for big events downtown, that we need to implement some sort of standard reporting on that, because I think we have a special event, we address this, we ask the question, you all kindly and appropriately respond, but we're not really kind of seeing the overall impact and ongoing impact. So I know we've seen some of these appropriations or grants coming back from the CVC, but I would just be interested in the context of budget, to Council Lady Allen's point, to see that over the past few years from all the related departments, so that we can just assess if we're doing that the right way, please.
Thank you, Councilwoman Henderson. Councilman Pulley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last I heard, I don't think there was reports out from the Convention Bureau or from Butch on the economic numbers associated with the benefits of having that particular event here. It would seem to me that it would be appropriate to balance the cost with the benefit. Do you know when we're expected to hear from him on that kind of data?
Who are you addressing the question to, Councilman Pulley?
Finance Department.
Mr.
John,
McGuire.
you can-
No, sir, I don't have any information on that. I mean,
Okay.
I think a lot of this, I mean, I know that there were still draft activities going on even as late as this weekend in terms of Metro Department involvement. So I don't know what kind of lag time there's going to be in getting some of these answers. I really, we've never asked requests of this for an NFL draft before, so I think this is new territory.
I understand it completely.
So.
In the interest of looking at the entire picture, though, I think we need to show all of that data, what it costs us and what benefits we obtain from that.
I agree. They're
Appreciate that.
very important questions that the council is asking. So, again, I and the finance department will do our best to get the answers for you.
And also, there are certain events like these that are in large part privately funded, and would we have the data on the amount of money that they spent putting this together at all?
So, for example, like the NFL, what they spent.
Sure. You think Butch would have those numbers?
It's possible, and we'll just add this to the questions that we're asking. I mean, it's possible. My speculation would be no, though. Specific to the NFL, I don't know if the NFL will have shared that information. It's possible that other groups would or will, but again, we'll ask the question for you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
And Councilman Pulley and Councilwoman Henderson and Councilwoman Allen, I will also pass this along to the chair of Convention and Tourism, Councilwoman Hurt, so she can also inquire as well. She may have information that hasn't been passed along to Budget and Finance. Councilwoman Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. This gives rise to me to ask, I guess, more of a procedural, operational question of finance. Typically, during the course of a year, how long does it take us to get access to what an individual department is spending in a particular event, for example? Let's take something that we do on Thursday nights at Public Square Park when we have music, just hypothetically. But how long does it take us to find out exactly what those costs were incurred? What's the delay?
That's a very good question. I've been in this role for 2 months, and so I don't have a lot of historical information to go off of. So I can't ably answer that question at this moment.
Okay, so I guess the reason...
I guess it would probably depend on the type of event and the type of expense. But, I mean, my hope would be it's fairly readily available. But, again, I don't have anything to base that off of.
So what's causing me to want to ask this, and I think others in the room, well, I know others in this room share the question, how did they come up with the amount of money that they want to provide? Under what formula, rather, did they come up with to determine how much they wanted to grant, if they can't tell us how much it cost?
I'm sorry, who?
The monies that...
Oh, that the CVC?
Yeah.
We would need to address that question with the CVC.
Yeah, I mean, how did they, if they can't tell us how much it cost, how do they know how much to give us? So that, to me, that's another acid question that we need to be asking, is how they come up with the number.
Right, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Weiner. Councilwoman Henderson.
My question is also similar to the council ladies, and I appreciate Councilman Pulley's point, but I just want to be clear that, I don't want a CVC marketing brochure, okay? Like, I would like to see just independent, separate analysis. So did we ask CVC for 10K, or did they just offer it to us? And is anybody doing the analysis to say, well, we appreciate that, but you should actually be giving us 40K? Like, so I guess that's just, so I appreciate it is a cost benefit, and we do look at, so if we're paying this much more, how much more revenue did we get in from sales tax and all that kind of stuff. But I really would just like to look at kind of hard costs.
The backstory, the background, what's behind the, right. I think I understand exactly what you're asking for.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. McGuire, I think fundamentally what committee members are asking, how did we end up with 10,000 and not 100,000 in the span of the NFL draft? For us, we know we can track departments' expenses with the budget accountability report as it relates to budget versus actual expenses. So we can do that. We can gauge that. I think the fundamental question is, why 10,000? And we need an itemization of that breakout across agencies.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Weiner, did you have anything further? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1711, sponsors Vercher and Roberts, approves an application for a specialized motorcycle enforcement grant from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office to the Metro Nashville Police Department to reduce the rate of fatal and serious injury motorcycle crashes on Tennessee roadways. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1712, sponsors Vercher and Roberts, approves a grant from the Tennessee Highland Realm Healthcare Coalition to the Metro Nashville Office of Emergency Management to fund the purchase of emergency lighting for large-scale events. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1713, sponsors Vercher and Roberts, approves an alcohol and impaired driving enforcement grant from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office to the Metro Nashville Police Department for the continuance of the Enhanced DUI Enforcement Initiative to reduce traffic fatalities attributed to impaired drivers through aggressive enforcement. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. RS 2019-1714, sponsor Vercher, approves a bulletproof vest grant from the United States Department of Justice to the Metro Nashville Police Department to purchase bulletproof vests for law enforcement personnel. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Councilwoman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Vercher. I guess my question would be for the police department. I know that we appropriated significant funds for bulletproof vests. My understanding at the time was to be for every member of our police force. I don't know if that's last year or a year prior. And so I was just hoping if we could get an update on how the previous funds were used, how these will be applied, and if we're making sure all our officers are safe. Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Jim Stevens, I'm the Strategic Development Division of the Metropolitan Police Department. This particular grant is to replace vests. Vests typically have a 5-year lifespan, and this specifically targets the regular vests that we wear. This particular grant won't cover any kind of specialized vests like the tactical officers wear, the heavy-duty vests, but this is specifically to target replacement vests that simply have reached their lifespan.
So the appropriation that the council made, I believe, in the wake of some shootings in Texas, I believe, if I recall, we were talking at that time about, the difference in long-range rifles and the different kinds of bullets, and that, the bulletproof vests that the officers had were maybe not at the level they had hoped or would need given the kind of guns that are out in the world now. So I guess these are the regular vests, meaning what you wear every day. Did we appropriate a tactical vest to every law enforcement officer, or can you speak to the previous appropriation in relation to this one?
As far as the other vests are concerned, right now we're trying to ramp up our recruitment course. So everybody that goes through a metropolitan recruitment class, graduates and becomes a police officer, is issued a vest. We're right now sending through large numbers of people through the account. Our classes are much larger. Those particular funds would probably go to purchasing new vests for new recruit officers, and in some cases, replacement vests. This particular grant would not cover even half the replacement costs that we would have throughout the year for regular vests. Generally, when we have a special kind of tactical vest, this is a very expensive vest, and there are some grants that are available that we purchase those vests through, or we utilize our own operating funds, because there's a lot of regulations go as far as those particular type of specialized vests. Some don't want us to utilize the more military type looking vests, and other grants will allow it. So generally, in order to get exactly what we want, we utilize our operating funds for those specialized vests.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm just hoping perhaps, in time, if you could maybe just report back to us just so we understand what we've previously appropriated, I think we did a, Lady Virtue, was a special
I believe
appropriation from 4%?
those were the tactical vests.
Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. You want to know
So I
exactly
understand
with that
this-
last appropriation, the number of vests and the types of vests that were purchased.
Correct.
I can get that too.
Right, and then also too, just, I would be interested to know, I mean, this is a one-time, is this an annual grant? Is this a one-time opportunity? You have a 5-year lifespan on your typical regular vest versus tech. I just kind of want to understand the full spectrum of that, just to make sure that we're.
For this particular grant, this particular grant's
not-
available annually.
Okay, good to know. So that's important to know. And then I would just like to understand, to look at previous budget appropriations and capital expenditures, just to understand not just this grant, but in the context of the larger issue.
Right, of how, the number of vests, the types of vests,
Right, and
I
I
could get that
guess
information to you.
I'm thinking of our most recent appropriation, but if we had appropriated prior to that, just kind of looking at it over maybe a course of 5 years or so.
easy enough, we can do that.
Okay,
I can
thank
get
you
that
so
to
much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Pulley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Council Member Henderson asked several of the questions that I was going to ask her. But to be clear, just so you know when you go back and do this research, I think what Councilmember Henderson's asking you is a very specific appropriation that we made, I think it was last year, and it dealt with the tactical, and I believe armor-plated type vests, because there was a robust discussion around all this militarization.
I understand the very heavy-duty vests.
So,
Those
yeah,
were purchased.
that's what she's talking about right
I'm
now,
I'm sorry, I
that
didn't-
appropriation. So I just want to make sure you're clear on that. So, and this one, it looks like a dollar for dollar match. And the 67,681 local match is coming out of your budget?
It's coming
That
out of the
right?
police department's operating budget,
And
yes, sir.
so we get, the United States government has given us, so basically we were able to get these vests for 50 cents on the dollar. Do you have any idea how much this roughly $150,000 is going to, how many vests this is going to purchase?
264 vests.
264 total?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you're giving them to new recruits and others?
Yes, this particular grant goes more to replacement vests that are already in the field.
Okay, and I want to make a clear distinction between the two kind of vests that we're talking about. Those were tactical vests worn by special operations groups that we approved in the last appropriation. The kind of vest you're talking about is something that you would wear under your uniform shirt in normal routine patrol that a police officer that would defend a police officer in the event that somebody with a handgun tried to shoot him.
Yes, sir.
Something like that. You know,
It's
I
a
could
level 2 vest. It's considered a
Sure,
level 2 vest.
and we hope that they wear them all the time. I've got some horror stories I could tell you about those who forgot to wear their vests on the way to work, and now they're no longer with us. But anyway, thank you very much for your answers, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Pulley. Councilman Prodmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And question to Lieutenant Stevens. This is an annually grant because the vests wear out not all at one time. We're not saying we're purchasing all the vests for all the officers, and then in 5 years from now, they're going to be repurchased for, allotted more money for new ones. Every year, so many vests expire.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Prodmore. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. RS 2019-1715, sponsor Virtue, authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim, Arissa Denberg, in the amount of $175,000. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Councilmember Pulley.
Very briefly, thank you, Madam Chair. I asked this question to Metro Legal, and maybe Public Works could weigh in, but it looks like this is an accident occurred from someone tripping over a hazard created by a sidewalk, a piece of which was in disrepair. Is that correct?
Correct. This was at Second and Broadway, the busiest, most traveled pedestrian-wise section, and the sidewalk was determined to be in disrepair, and Metro would most likely be found liable. We would have had constructive notice because it would have taken some time for the sidewalk to deteriorate. All of those sidewalks have now been repaired.
Okay, and the constructive notice is a legal term for what the court would find in that because of the deteriorated nature and the length of time it took to become deteriorated like it did, we should have had notice of the fact that it was in that state. Is that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Correct.
Now, is there any way to relate that back to the reality of how Public Works does get notified of such a thing? Mark, maybe you could speak to that?
I'm Mark Sturdivant, Public Works. We are constantly monitoring our system, looking for defects. We get a lot of information from the employees of Public Works that are constantly out. We have the sidewalk plan, which looks for sidewalks that need to be repaired. Those are usually lengths of sidewalks rather than a particular paver that might have a corner sticking up that someone could trip on. We also get a lot of information from our other Metro departments that are out, the Water Department, NES, Codes Department. The Police Department looks for defects and reports those to us. The hub has been a great source of the public that reports to us, sidewalks that might need to be repaired, and then just the general public. So it's a big job. There's a lot of ground to cover, and once we get a defect reported to us, we try to fix it as soon as we can. But we can't get to all of them.
And did we know about this through any of those forums? Did we have any knowledge that this existed to your knowledge?
We did not.
So out of all those means, we still didn't know, and it's a shame that the court would rule that we did, but I mean, I understand how that goes. Well, I would only close by saying I know you got a lot of sidewalk to patrol, but I wish you had a whole lot more. So anyway, thank you for what you do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Sturdivant. Thank you. We have another question, Director, so don't leave. Councilwoman Henderson.
Director Sturdivant, I guess my question comes in a highly trafficked area like the downtown core. I appreciate that you all did not have a report about this particular condition, and I kind of concur with Councilman Pulley there. It looks like you all had repaired this same location 4 years prior. Do we need to kind of like with the downtown business group, or I know they have employees that kind of, circulate and do maybe some extra trash pickup and so forth in that business improvement district down there. Could we be more intentional about partnering with them to submit things to the hub so that we're...
That's a good suggestion, and I left them off the list, but they do that for us.
Okay.
I'd also like to say that our sidewalks downtown they have a lot of traffic, and they're also expensive to repair. And 2 years ago, we did a patch job, if you will. We found all the little spots that might be trip hazards on 2nd Avenue and just fixed kind of those spots in anticipation of doing a bigger job. We haven't scheduled that yet. It's a funding issue. But in the next couple of years, we'd like to look at 2nd and 1st Avenue. Right now, we're working on Broadway. But those areas, those high-traffic areas in downtown require constant attention.
And was this a brick sidewalk then, or in this particular area, Mr. Cooper? Do you know, was it a brick sidewalk or was it a concrete sidewalk?
Ask James Robinson, see if he knows whether it was, I think it was concrete because it was, I believe it was on Broadway in front of the Hard Rock Cafe.
I don't know.
James?
Yes, I believe it was concrete.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Henderson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. You want to go back to the resolution and re-roll? She's on her way. Okay. Now we're going to be on bills on second reading. We have BL 2019-1598, sponsors O'Connell, Roberts, and others, amends the Metro Code to establish a fleet schedule for low or zero emissions vehicles owned by Metro government. Before a motion, I'm going to go to the sponsor. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We just want to give a brief background on this. I'd like to move to defer this, and I don't know if Mr. Jamison, we can take maybe all three of these at once. At request of General Services, we're going to defer all these one meeting, so I'd like to move deferral by one meeting with a brief explanation.
You can't.
I guess I can. Yeah,
You
I guess
can't.
I will.
So, Councilman, you have some amendments. Do you want to
Right.
get the amendments on all three?
I
and
don't
then-
yet, so
Okay.
thank you, though. So what I'd like to do on all three of these bills is basically defer one meeting with those amendments carrying with them. We have submitted all three amendments based on some feedback with General Services, NES, and the administration in particular, and would like to just go one round. And they requested that one meeting deferral so they could prepare an appropriate fiscal note, and so I just wanted to give them that time to do that. So if this committee would consider one meeting deferral without attaching those amendments on all three bills, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman. If there isn't any objection by committee members, we can take all three. Before I read the Vice Chair Roden.
I was just going to make the motion to put all three together and move to defer them one meeting.
Thank you so much. Okay. BL 2019-1598, sponsors O'Connell, Roberts, and others, amends the Metro Code to establish a fleet schedule for low or zero emissions vehicles owned by Metro government. BL 2019-1599, sponsors O'Connell, Roberts, and others, amends the Metro Code to create green building standards for buildings owned by Metro and amends sustainable building design standards for new and renovated Metro government buildings and facilities. BL 2019-1600, sponsors O'Connell, Roberts, and others, amends the Metro Code to establish a renewable energy standard for Metro government. At the request of the sponsor, there's been a motion to defer one meeting. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Bills are deferred. BL 2019-1601, sponsor Rosenberg, amends the Metro Code relative to contracts for government relations and lobbying services. Press your button, Councilman Rosenberg. Before we take the motion, I'm going to go to the sponsor. Councilman Rosenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There will be a minor amendment to add to this bill whenever it's appropriate for you to consider that. This bill, in a nutshell, asks that we not pay lobbyists to lobby against Nashville. This year, the bill with the greatest fiscal impact on our city was the voucher bill. Nashville has spoken loudly against vouchers, not just with Council Lady Haywood's resolution that passed last week unanimously, but in 2013, Councilman Glover sponsored one that passed unanimously. In 2011, former Council Lady Karen Johnson sponsored one that passed it unanimously. In addition, the school board has opposed vouchers in 2019, 2017, 2011, and probably other times I couldn't locate. In this year's case, all 14 of our state legislators in Davidson County opposed it, and it's for a pretty good reason. You know, statewide vouchers in general got a 29% support rate in the most recent statewide poll. In this particular proposal, which was known as ESAs or vouchers on steroids, was so insidious that opponents and proponents alike stood up on the floor one after another, asking, begging, ensuring that their districts would not be impacted by this bill. Those pushing this bill, there were at least 30 pro-voucher lobbyists up there, and a small handful of great but limited lobbyists to speak for the other side. Speaking more specifically to what this bill is seeking to do, we pay our lobbyists a flat fee to lobby for us. We pay them $1.1 million. And in this particular case, they lobbied against us because they were hired by a pro-voucher organization solely to lobby for school privatization. So they lobbied against us. They left us with nobody on our payroll lobbying for us. We spent $1.1 million to do it, and we lost by 1 vote. So the hope would be that we can, in the future, have lobbyists lobbying for us instead of against us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rosenberg. Can you also advise the committee of the details of the amendment?
Absolutely. So the bill is originally drafted. First of all, most importantly, this does not affect a current contract. This does not seek to impact a current contract. It says in the future we won't sign a new contract or extend a contract that falls into this description I just gave, and also says that we'll terminate a contract if they begin lobbying for school privatization. This adjusts that to say that instead of terminating the contract immediately, there will be 90 days to do that, so we're not left with no lobbyist on other issues, and so that all the details can be worked out.
Thank you so much, Councilman Rosenberg. Councilman Pulley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know who this question will be for. I'll start with Ms. Jamerson and see if
We're not on the bill. We're not on the bill yet, so let's get on the bill. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly.
Keep me in the queue.
Yes, it's been moved and properly seconded. Now I need someone if they can move the amendment for me. It's been moved and properly seconded. We're voting on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? Amendment passes. Now we're back on the bill as amended. Councilman Pulley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the concept of what Councilman Rosenberg's trying to do. I have a question for our legal people or the sponsor, but I just want to make sure we're not setting ourselves up with any unintended consequences here, because lobbyists lobby for a number of groups, and we want the best lobbyists lobbying for us. So is this going to somehow or another impact that ability by putting restrictions on those who we would contract with whom to lobby? Because
Attorney
that makes
Cooper.
sense.
The way the bill is worded, I think it would limit the entities or firms that are eligible for bidding in the future. If it is a law firm that has provided any advice to a charter school or to any of these other organizations, then they would be ineligible. But it does not apply to any existing contract. The current lobbying contract goes through 2022.
Okay. And so this language is specific to, the restrictions are specific to charter schools and vouchers and things of that nature?
Well, it's any organization or anything that would result in lower funding for metro schools.
Okay, all right.
If it would divert funds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Pulley. Director Cooper, do we have, what provisions do we have in place that we can catch those types of conflicts of interest as opposed to us reading it in the paper and seeing it on the news? Do we have any type provisions in place where our lobbyists are to disclose those types of conflicts?
I believe that they currently do disclose other clients. I'll have to check on what those disclosure requirements are.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, that question, woo, look, that lit people up. Councilman Mendez.
As I understand it, this conflict was disclosed when they bid on the work in the first place. So I don't think the current one, I don't think it's a lack of disclosure. It was known to Metro when they were bidding on the work in the first place. I think it's more of a whether that particular kind of conflict on education is tolerable to the city is really the question. But I think there was fully disclosed. And frankly, you can read about it online with the state's directory of it also.
Thank you, Councilman Mendez. Councilwoman Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a general question. Are there any cities in the country that hire their own lobbyists on staff so they don't have to worry about these conflicts?
Director Cooper?
I don't know. I'm sure that there are some that have full-time lobbyists. In fact, years ago, Metro Legal used to do that, and it got to where it was just such a burdensome task to have somebody up there all day, every day. So I want to say 10 years ago or so, started hiring lobbyists.
I think in light of this and the potential for future conflict, it might be something that we want to look at, because look at the amount of money that Metro is losing now as a result of this, or the potential money that Metro is losing as a result of this, and it might be important for us to look at a cost-benefit analysis and make a determination on maybe whether we need to look at doing this again in the future. So, Chair, I think that we need to ask that that be something that we consider moving forward.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Weiner. I have noted that. Councilwoman Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Vercher. I appreciate Councilman Rosenberg bringing this bill, and I certainly understand that as far as his committee roles and policy interests, that this is focused in the educational space. And I wonder, to Councillady Weiner's point, if we just need to make sure, as it relates to disclosure and conflict, that, you know, our lobbyists that we're paying $1.1 million isn't lobbying against us on a whole host of things. So I would be interested to understand what the language was in the initial contract that speaks to that, and is there any language to that effect? So I appreciate and support this bill, but I would also like to understand going forward, whether through the cost-benefit analysis that Councillady Weiner is speaking to, or just generally to make sure that the language in our lobbying contracts is better, to make it very clear that this isn't appropriate.
Thank you, Councilwoman Henderson. Director Cooper, do we periodically inventory our contracts with various lobbyists as it relates to scope and so forth?
We just have the one contract, and it's for a term of 5 years. The scope has not changed that I'm aware of since that went into place 2 years ago.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilman Mendez.
Thanks. I was just going to add again briefly, I really don't think, and obviously we would need to get the information to everybody's satisfaction, but I think the firm has been perfectly clear about the work they're doing, and it takes 3 minutes worth of work by anybody in the mayor's office or any of us to check online to see who all they represent. So the fact that there's a conflict on a particular issue, I think we would see has been completely disclosed to the city since the beginning of the relationship. The question for this legislation is whether we'd be saying as a body that in connection with education, that's no longer a conflict that we would want to tolerate going forward. But I think we'd see that the contract is very clear. Their bidding materials identified that they do work for these kind of issues, and that they wouldn't do those kind of works that lobby on these issues for Metro. And so I don't think it's about disclosure to Metro. Maybe there would be some questions about how much of the information made it back to us, but strictly speaking, this legislation is whether we'd be wanting to say as a body on these education issues, that's not a thing that a future administration would have the ability to tolerate.
Thank you, Councilman Mendez. I think committee members are asking for a much broader conversation. Today is vouchers. Tomorrow it may be something else. So I believe that's why they're continuing to ask those questions. This is great legislation by Councilman Rosenberg. Councilwoman Henderson.
Chair, if I may, so I concur with Councilman Mendez. I'm not asserting that this wasn't disclosed or that the mayor's office or Metro Legal was not aware of this. I guess what I am wanting to make sure is through our procurement process or the next time we're looking at this contract that we make sure, to your point, Chair Lady, not just in the educational space, but that we have very clear language in the contract about these conflicts, and then also for us to understand in this scenario, what's plan B? I mean, if we knew that they had this conflict, if we knew that this, ESA vouchers, that this was looming in any particular legislative session, why was there not a plan in place to lobby Metro's side of this argument? And I mean, I would be interested to know, Councilman Rosenberg, not for purposes of this legislation, but, from a school board perspective, in the educational space, does their lobbying and their budget, I mean, does it address that? So when we kind of have Metro Legal, mayor's office kind of managing our lobbying contract, but, we're a big government with a lot of areas of specialty and policy interest. And so, I guess I'm just thinking, 2-3 years from now, if we're reinitiating this contract, I mean, would we want to have a lobbying contract particular to the educational space and then another lobbyist perhaps addressing other areas? So I'm just hoping we can look at this kind of comprehensively.
Versus being with one firm?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Henderson. Vice Chair Roten.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Cooper, I know, and I'm sure a lot of folks in this room know, the viewers at home may not know, and this is just for transparency. Could you kind of explain who represents Metro Schools up on the Hill? I know we have the Big Four represented. TEA also represents our interest, and I don't know what dollars are actually being spent through that avenue as far as schools. And if you could just kind of explain to folks who are watching at home kind of how our schools' interests are represented up there on the Hill.
So Metro government itself, in addition to having the firm we've been talking about, also pays for lobbyists through the Tennessee Municipal League. And then there's another lobbyist that just handles the Big Four cities. In addition, on the school side, I think there are 2 organizations that lobby on their behalf. I don't remember the name. I think Mark North's back there. He can tell you specifically.
Come on down.
Mark North, Government Relations, Metro Schools. The school system is a member of the Tennessee School Boards Association, and they have people on the Hill, as well as a coalition of large area school systems. The 4 largest school systems: Knox County, Hamilton County, Shelby County, and Metro Schools. And we have 2 lobbyists who work through class. I think those are the organizations.
Vice Chair?
Thank you. I just want to make sure that everybody that was watching understood that we did have representation on the Hill and that we weren't just closed off from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Go back to the sponsor. Councilman Rosenberg, do you have anything additional before we take the vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah. A few things. First of all, I think Mr. Cooper may have stated that it disqualified anybody who has ever lobbied for vouchers. I just want to make clear that the language says anybody who's party to an active contract. As for charters, I don't think that falls under here unless we're talking about ASD takeovers, because whether you think a charter school is a public school or not, they are part of the metropolitan Nashville public school system. And I'd like to also say, this is not a transparency issue like Councilman Mendez alluded to. This is the fact that we know that our biggest challenge probably this year is going to be the fact that our public schools are woefully underfunded. And at a time where we need to be getting every dollar we can from the state, our lobbyist was up there asking the governor and legislators to send us less money in the future. And I think that's a major issue. We did not have a voice up there. I mean, the school board was represented through class and the school board association. It's great that, TML is working for a lot more than just us. Metro government did not have anybody working for us. We paid somebody to work against us. And I think that's on an issue like this, where it's, life and death for our schools, that should not be something that we tolerate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Rosenberg. We're on the bill as amended. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Bill is recommended. BL 2019-1602, sponsor Mendez, amends the Metro Code regarding annual debt reports to the Metro Council. Before we take the motion, I'm going to go to the sponsor. Councilman Mendez.
All right, so I'll
Oh, you're on the committee. You can make the motion. Go ahead. Councilman Mendez.
I'll move approval and then an amendment.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Now you're on your amendment?
Yeah, I'll move the amendment, and after we get the amendment on, I would like to just make a brief explanation.
Okay, we're voting on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed?
And move the bill as amended.
Now we're on the bill as amended.
And the brief explanation is just out of the charter revision efforts, Mr. Cooper and I ended up looking at this, Councilman Cooper and I ended up looking at this. We get an annual debt report from finance, and for the last several years, Ms. Lomax O'Neill has been providing more information than is currently required in the ordinance. And this is an update that basically just adds, it makes the ordinance match what Ms. Lomax O'Neill has been doing already. So if we have a future finance director that backpedals on information, we'd still get the same info that she's been giving us. Finance has signed off on this. The amended language are some tweaks that finance asked for. So again, at the end of the day, this is updating the debt report ordinance to make sure that we keep getting the same level of information that Ms. Lomax O'Neill has been giving us.
Thank you so much, Councilman Mendez. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? We're on the bill as amended. All in favor? Opposed? Bill is recommended. If there isn't any objection, we can take BL 2019-1604 and BL 2019-1605 together. Are there any objections? Seeing none, BL 2019-1604, sponsors O'Connell, Vircher, and others, approves the execution of an amended restated agreement with respect to the development and operation of the Museum of African American Music, Art, and Culture. BL 2019-1605, sponsors Vircher, Syracuse, Gilmore, approves a sublease for property located at the corner of Broadway and 5th Avenue North from Oliver McMillan, Spectrum Emory, LLC, to Metro Government to be used as a museum celebrating African American Museum. I would like for us to approve on second and refer back to budget on third if the committee is okay with that, if I can get a motion for that. It's been moved and properly seconded. Now we're on discussion. Councilman Mendez.
I guess I just want to make sure with Metro Legal and Mr. Jameson that both of these are amendable on third reading. All right, both guys shaking heads, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Bill is recommended with a re-referral back to budget. Now we have to go back to our resolution that we moved to the Hill. That's RS 2019-1704, sponsors Vircher, Syracuse, and others, approves a grant from the Tennessee Arts Commission to the Metro Arts Commission for funding to nonprofit organizations to nurture artists, arts organizations, and support development of Davidson County's cultural resources. Is there a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded. I believe we had some discussion earlier, and she is here. Thank you for coming back.
Hey, I'm Jane Alvis. I'm a member of the Metro Arts Commission. Carolyn Vincent couldn't be here. She had a sick child and couldn't get away from the doctor's office in time to get back. So I'm happy to answer a question.
Councilwoman Gilmore.
Thank you. If you could just explain how it works and
Yes.
how much money you appropriate.
This is a pass-through grant that we do annually from the Tennessee Arts Commission. It's a program called Arts Builds Community. The Metro Arts Commission is the designated administrator for the state in Davidson County. These are small grants to build community arts programs. They range from $500 to $2,500. And the total amount last year was around $30,000. I'm actually not sure what the amount is this
It's
year.
$34,560
It's
per
usually
the
right around that
analysis.
same amount. It's for small neighborhood-based arts organizations.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilman Pulley.
Yes, Ms. Alvis, looks like the local match is exactly that. Is that correct? Is that coming out of your budget that's currently existing? Because it looks like the dates I saw were for July 1 of 2019 through June of 2020. So I'm just wondering which budget that would come out of. This one
It's
or
all
the new one?
Tennessee. This is all Tennessee Arts Commission money.
Yeah, but there's a local match too, as I understand it.
Sorry.
Okay. So you don't know the answer?
It's out of your budget.
It's, okay.
$34,560.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's coming out of your next year's budget? Is that the way that works? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is recommended. Before we adjourn, I want to remind committee members that we are in budget season. We will begin our first budget hearings Wednesday, May 8th at 4 o'clock promptly. Departments have been submitting the answers to their questionnaires. That information is available on the SharePoint. If you haven't had an opportunity to go out and review those questionnaires, I encourage you to do so between today and Wednesday so that the committee is adequately prepared and we're not asking questions that's already been submitted and answered, just to ensure that we have a smooth budgetary process. Just for the viewing audience, want to let you know that our Metro Charter requires that the recommended budget ordinance be filed by May 1st. That ordinance has been filed, and the council, we have until June 30th to pass a budget. In the event we don't, the mayor's recommended budget goes into effect. And with that, thank you, committee members. We are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.org.